strategies that the Colorado Department of Transportation has incorporated. And so having that open dialogue about what are some things that we can do to help address these challenges. So to start with, I think one of the things that's very interesting is to look at the growth in population in Colorado over the last 20 years. I was at a state meeting yesterday, and there were some newcomers to the state, and they were asking about, you know, what was Colorado like? Because I've spent most of my life here, and it was very different. We talked about how when I was in college, I could drive up and ski up I-70 and go the speed limit the whole way, and then come home at the end of the day and go the speed limit the whole way. And so we know that the extra stress on our highways is certainly contributes to this growth in population. So if you look at this, we have really grown by almost 50% over the last 20 years, going from about 4.8 million in population back in 2004 to today in 2024, where we're almost hit that 6 million mark. So quite a significant growth in the number of people, really. And we know that the majority of that growth is in the Front Range. There we go. Sorry, my slide advancing is giving me a little trouble. This slide shows us a little bit more about where that growth is happening. So you can see the darker red is where we're seeing the greatest growth. So up in the Northeast, the northern part and central part of the metro area, you can see Denver, Jefferson, Douglas, El Paso, which is our Colorado Springs colleagues, up into Weld County and Larimer. And so I think this is helpful to see again that we're seeing that greatest growth in the major metro area, and interestingly enough, out on Western Slope as well, out in Mesa County. Our growth rate ranks us the 19th highest in the United States. Weld County and Douglas County have experienced the highest population growth with 10,000 roughly and 6,000 respectively. San Juan County and Custer County had the highest percentage growth with 8% and 8.1% and 5.4% respectively. And another interesting fact is that Colorado's population is aging. You know, we're seeing that really across the United States, and Colorado is as well. So when we look at this trend in growth, individuals 0 to 17 has actually dropped by just under 1%. So we're not seeing a population growth in our young people. And individuals 65 and over has increased 3%. So that is where we're seeing the major growth. And really what that tells you is those are individuals who are nearing that retirement age. So again, contributing to our challenge to find employees. So we're actually losing the individual, no, I mean, we're not losing, but we have people leaving the workforce. You know, a greater percentage of the population is ready to leave the workforce, and that new group is actually getting smaller. So thought it was helpful to take a look at these numbers as well. I can stop here and see if there are any questions or comments.
Yeah. Rebecca, are those numbers for Colorado's aging population, is that over the 2021 to 22 period, or is that over a longer period of time?
It's a longer, so this is from, as the map indicates, from 2010 to 2040. So over, well, you know, looking at the last 14 years and then looking forward to the next, you know, roughly 15 years.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. All right, any other questions? Okay. And I think other interesting information is looking at the wages that our population is earning. You can see from 2004, and this data runs through 2022. So I'm sure that that line continues to head upward. But this is per capita wage data. So this is the average wage that, based on per person in the state of Colorado, what they've earned over the last 18 years here. And you can see back in 2004, the average per capita wage was about just over $35,000 per year. And that has now exceeded 75,000. We're up to about $80,000 per year. And what that indicates is, those higher wages means that as employers, we're having to look at competing with those wages. I also included here, because the chart on the left is actual numbers, right? That's what people are earning. On the left, or on the right, it is the value based on 2017 dollars, to kind of account for changes in the value of the dollar. And even by setting that number to be consistent across this time frame, you can see that we still are seeing an increase in wages for our citizens of Colorado. So I think that is something else that's definitely contributing to some of our challenges. And then, of course, we're all aware of the low unemployment rates that we're currently experiencing. And I couldn't help but include this. So this is slightly different, but in looking at unemployment rates, when we look at the education that people hold, so for individuals who have less than a high school diploma, their unemployment rate is at 7.1%. Individuals who have a high school diploma, who have graduated from high school, have a 4% rate of unemployment. Some college or an associate, it's 3.4%. And then for individuals with a bachelor's degree or higher, it's only 2.5%. So as we're looking to hire, as we're looking at our workforce, having those entry-level jobs, we have a little bit better chance of filling those. But as we get into management, as we get into those positions where individuals probably do have a bachelor's degree or higher, that availability of individuals, that unemployment rate is quite small. So I thought that information was helpful, as well as just looking at the overall unemployment rates. And for this chart, I also added in the national rates. You can see that Colorado is actually slightly lower unemployment rates. Again, that doesn't work in our favor as employers, right? It's great for the citizens of the state, but as employers, it makes it, we are even more highly challenged to find workers compared to national rates. So any questions on those two areas, either the unemployment rates, or I'll go back to the wage data, or comments? And I'd be curious, for those of you who are looking to hire, are you finding that your management positions are harder to fill compared to your entry-level positions? Anybody have a pulse? Yeah. Sanju's shaking his head yes.
Yeah, they tend to stay open longer. We don't have as many qualified applicants apply, and for the entry level positions, if they apply, they're qualified. It's just getting the word out and getting them to apply.
Nice. Keith, did you want to say? I noticed you turned your camera on.
Sure. I'm not sure if you're asking specifically like here on campus or for our local agencies, but I think the challenges are similar. I know here on campus, there has been real challenges in getting qualified candidates and interest in some positions at all. And then that's certainly true for our local agencies. And the turnover with the local agencies has continued to increase.
Yeah, I think that we're competing with other industries even, right, who are also struggling with these low unemployment rates and these high wage ranges. And so I think, we see that turnover as well, where someone can go to another state or even another college within the state of Colorado and make another $20,000-$30,000, and that's significant for an individual and supporting their family and providing what's needed. And so absolutely, these are challenging times to be an employer.
Rebecca,
Sure, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add that, when, I'll put the business hat on now, but, when we think about the cost of labor, we also need to be mindful of the cost of living. And so, because that's a significant driver in what sets our wages. So making sure that we're staying up with the cost of inflation and all those additional expenses to actually providing a living wage. So I just wanted to point that out because, there's two different approaches. There's the cost of labor and the cost of living. And, I always joke that when it comes to the minimum wage, which we all know is a heated debate across the nation right now, it's really driven by McDonald's. I have a small business in downtown Longmont, and it's the McDonald's, or your local economy that really sets what that wage is to be competitive. So it's really in tune to be aware of those types of things that drives that.
Yeah, I agree. And, bringing it back to some of the work that we do here, we know how important it is to keep students on campus, and we want to be able to hire them on campus. But to Chris's point, we also compete with McDonald's, right? We have to make sure that our wages provide enough incentive for those students to stay on campus and work for us, rather than going to the, fast food industry. So yeah, thank you, Chris. All right, and this next slide actually fits that point, your earlier point, in that not only do we have to look at wages, but we also have to look at the cost of living. And so one of those indicators is housing costs. And I noticed this chart put I'm not sure in that left axis, but those are, of course, in thousands. And so, we have gone, and this is just a 12-year longitudinal data look. And just 12 years ago, that average house in Colorado was just under $200,000. And you can see that in just 12 years, that average housing cost has gone up to just over $500,000. And right, that's over doubling. And so individuals living in Colorado have certainly seen that increase. And even with the wage increases that we've seen, in fact, that would be interesting to go back and look. Let's take a quick look, see if we can do that math really quick. So if we look at this, so 2012, we were probably at 45, and now we're up to 80. So not quite have doubled. Our wages haven't quite doubled. I'm guessing that's about a 40% increase, whereas we have seen our housing costs more than double. So as far as that ratio, our cost of living is going up even higher, faster than our wage increases. And again, that makes it challenging as employers to find good people and keep good people and keep our businesses sustainable, right? I think, Chris, I love that you have that small business perspective, right? I think our small businesses probably struggle the most, keeping that bottom line in the black and not in the red. But even our state agencies, like our colleges, universities, and Colorado Department of Transportation, we have a fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers, and we're required to stay within budget. So it really puts us kind of in a challenging spot. Any questions or comments about cost of living, housing, your own experience? Anyone?
I think one of the things that I see or hear from the local agencies that complicates the situation is the fact that the cost of training them once they come in, like for local agencies, they may come in with absolutely no experience, no training. Some of them are just walking off the street and they just need a job, and they come in and the local agency will bear the cost of very expensive, for example, CDL training and things like that. And that can cost, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000 per employee. And then wage wars take over. The local agency next door is going to offer them $1 an hour more and they'll go. Right.
Yeah.
So that complicates things, and it really puts the burden of all of that training on the local agencies, whoever they are. And they'll swap them back and forth, and that happens quite a bit, but it's a huge expense. And I looking at all your charts, which are wonderful, you can see that the local agencies did not have time to prepare for their wages to double or all their assets to increase so much that they could enter into these wage wars in any competitive way. So I think that's something that needs to be considered when we talk about this workforce.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, Sue, I think, a lot of our local agencies can attest that, I mean, it does take months, sometimes years to develop the skill sets to be truly productive. And so, there's so much money and time that goes into hiring new employees. So if you don't retain your talent, you're going to continue to to not be efficient. And so I think, hiring right, starting from the recruitment process, but also like setting employees up to succeed, like from day one. And so that they and that employees have progress internally, because that's another thing is again, going back to the small business perspective, is it takes a lot of training to an investment to bring an employee up to the level that you expect them to be at. And so if you're constantly losing employees due to whatever the circumstances are, it's very problematic long term.
Absolutely. All right. Anyone else? Okay. So now let's have a conversation about kind of the workforce challenges. So the first one, of course, is the workforce shortage. So we talked about this. Low unemployment, I think, is really contributing to this. I probably should also have listed the fact that our population is aging and that we're losing those individuals who are ready for that next chapter in their life. We recognize that high wages cause this workforce shortage because people are moving. And of course, the expensive housing is another contributor to that. We have higher wage costs. So looking at what's contributing to our higher wages, the first is just the increase in minimum wage. We had that conversation as well. We also are seeing increases in the cost of benefits. And Chris mentioned training. So professional development and training is a benefit, and the cost of that, of course, it goes up along with wages. But also healthcare benefits have gone up, right? Our healthcare industry continues to have cost increases. They're having to pay higher wages, and so that's also contributing. And then also in the state of Colorado, there's the some new legislation. And again, a lot of these things benefit the individuals, but make it a little bit challenging for our employers. And that's the family legislation that provides for pay for our employees should they need some leave for either, welcoming a new child to the family, or, having a personal health crisis. And all of these add up to additional costs. And the fact that we're seeing these increases, it requires us to have to compete and stay competitive just to recruit and retain employees. So all of these attributes and factors are contributing to our employer challenges. And then lastly, I think this is specifically to our Colorado Department of Transportation and the needs there, and that's a higher demand for services. Our increased population means that we're having more people on the roads. I shared my story about skiing many, many years ago, and there were not nearly as many cars, right? We've seen that 50% increase in population, and so we're seeing 50% more cars on the road, requiring not only repair and maintenance, but also widening of the roads, making sure that people can get up into the mountains to ski. We've seen significant construction on I-70 so that many people come to Colorado for the mountains, and it has created a huge demand for services in our transportation workforce. So I wanted to make sure I addressed that too. Okay, so now let's move to a conversation about what are some things that we can do in order to address this. One of the things that we're hearing more and more about is the concept of apprenticeship. And with apprenticeship, that's where we have employers partner with education. The way that there's a handful of models for apprenticeships, but one of the models that we've seen work well is for educational organizations to partner with industry to actually work with industry to recruit employees that may need that training, and then work collaboratively for the employer to provide on-the-job training so that students get some of the skills that are needed for the credential. And then the education provider helps by providing the theory side, the concepts that are needed for the training. And some advantages to this are, one, you are paying those lower wages at the beginning because the employer or the employee is actually benefiting from the training, from the professional development and the training. We typically see increased retention, and in fact, some of our employers actually build in the requirement that the employees stay with them for at least a year or at least 2 years. So this way, because it's a bit of an investment to ensure that these employees can earn a certificate or an associate's degree, and it so therefore can help increase employee retention. And it also allows employers to train specifically to the requirements of that employer, rather than a generic certificate that someone might earn at an institution. It allows that employer to customize that training because they also are doing some of that work at the job site. It's also definitely advantages the employees. Many individuals don't have the I'll say luxury to go to school full time. They have to work during the day and go to school part-time, and this allows them to already be working in their field of choice rather than, and we'll use our our example that we're using today, rather than working at McDonald's or a fast food employer. So apprenticeships can be a viable solution benefiting both the employer and the employee. So questions or comments about apprenticeships? Are any of you currently using them? Interested? Concerns about them?
CDOT has a good internship program, but unfortunately, it's geared towards college kids during their summers. And if it could trickle down to high school kids, I think it could be a really great benefit.
We had some really good luck when we ran our internship program with it wasn't quite an apprenticeship. It was a internship program that took the students through their last semester of high school. And we did the theory part of it in the classroom. And then when the day they graduated, they were eligible to go to a local agency and begin their internship. And it worked out really well. We found ourselves competing though with Colorado RBI, Road and Bridge Institute, which offered them opportunity for CDL and just gave them more than we were able to give them with our internship. But it was a great way to connect with the high schools and to reach these kids before they went out and got the job at McDonald's or Amazon or wherever it was that they wanted to go. Because once they get in, they see the opportunity that these local agencies can provide for them. They find out they can get a commercial driver's license, and solves a little bit of the problem of, the cost of living in some of these places. I know CDOT has lots of agencies have housing stipends that they give folks to live in some of these more affluent communities because they can't afford, the people that do these jobs can't afford those places. So those kinds of benefits are important to some of these kids, but these kids actually already live in some of those towns, right? I don't know how their parents are going to feel about this, but they live there already and they're all graduating and they're not all going to to college. And Rebecca, I don't know if you have statistics on this, but the last time I looked, I think less than 60% of graduating seniors actually went on um, to start college. And I think the statistics of them completing their first semester were even less than that. That's a lot of kids just out of high school who are looking for employment. The problem is for us in this industry is they don't know about these jobs. Nobody ever talks about public service jobs or these jobs specifically. Public works jobs, unless it's engineering and on the college side. But it's a great way for kids to go out there, find out, look around a little bit, see what opportunities there, decide if they want to stay. And then once they do decide to stay, tap into some of the opportunities and benefits, tuition reimbursement and things like that go with those jobs. So yeah, thanks.
And so you do bring up a good point, and that's something that this slide could also have included, is apprenticeships and internships, because there is a slight difference there, right? An internship does tend to be very short term. Typically the wages are a little bit lower because it is like a one semester or a summer, right? And so an internship really is a opportunity for learners to explore the industry, for employers to give people the opportunity to learn more about their industry, whereas an apprenticeship tends to be a little bit more of a significant commitment from both the employee and the employer. Apprenticeships are typically, what's the word I want? You have to fill out all the paperwork with the Colorado Department of Labor. What's nice is that we can do our own apprenticeship. We don't have to do the national one. So thanks to Governor Polis that he got that into place. But an apprenticeship really does tie that individual to your agency, and you are hiring that person, right? Where an internship is more like a guest employee that just comes in for a short amount of time. With apprenticeship, the employer actually hires the person. That's why there's a significant amount of collaboration between the college and the agency, because you work together to find that person who the agency is willing to actually hire, and that the college feels confident that they're ready for the educational component of it. So they're kind of two different ways that we can incorporate and partner with educational folks to help add individuals to our workforce.
Yeah, so I know Diane Hayes had her hand up, and then Rebecca Post.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Let me introduce myself. I'm Diane Hayes. I am the lead residential case manager for Veterans Community Project here in Longmont. And my question is, how do our veterans here, they come to the village, how do they seek some of these jobs? Where do I go to get them a foot in, or just introduce them to it so they have an opportunity to maybe apply for the apprenticeships and just get some sort of exposure to this?
Sue, do you want to answer that? Because you probably have a better.
So one of a really good resource, every state has a local technical assistance program, or an LTAP, who's my partner here on this this program today. Tapping into your LTAP is a great way to find out what might be available out there. They have a direct link to the local agencies. So you know, they can show you where the biggest needs are, or, you know, they can connect you with your local agency as far as finding a job. But again, that's part of the problem. There's really not a good clearinghouse. You can look at APWA's website, or you can look at some of the public works publications that come out, and sometimes they'll list the jobs, you know, locally, mostly if you look on the local chapters. Thank you, Corinne. She's put the link up there in the chat for everyone. That's those are your best resources, I think, locally to find them. Or, you know, go right to your DOT. They're struggling with the same problems, and we're really partnering on this whole problem. One more thing I just want to say before we wrap this part up, but a big piece of the partnering for us when we did our internship program was with the high school. We tapped into the concurrent enrollment program up there, so the kids did not have any cost. We were able to get the local agencies that hired these kids on graduation to pay the cost of the internship, so that when these kids were done, they actually had 6 credits towards our degree. And once they found themselves a career where they were going to stay and decided that they might want to promote later, they could come back and apply those, as well as a lot of the other training that they got on the job towards credit for our degree. We have a lot of stuff in the chat. So Teresa Roy says, I worked with Colorado contractors to recruit students and to their pre-apprenticeships. Yep, that's great. And Colorado DOT does have a wonderful apprenticeship program, but like Sanjeev said, it's really geared more towards engineering, planning, and some of the more college type stuff. But
yeah, we may want to look at doing partnering with them a little bit more and see if there is a way to build in that advance from the internship up to the apprenticeship. So okay. Rebecca Post.
I just wanted to clarify that the apprenticeship that the Colorado Contractors Association does is a trade for civil construction rather than engineering, just to clarify that.
Thanks.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I was talking and I was already muted. Oh. I apologize. Good morning. I'm Rebecca Post with Adams County Workforce. I'm having technical difficulties, so I don't have my camera on. But I am a business developer with the workforce centers, and we do work specifically with paid internships opportunities, both in the high school and the adults. And there are registered apprenticeships, or if you don't have an apprenticeship registered, but you have that in place and you want to get it registered with the Colorado Department of Labor, we do have apprenticeship navigator here on site in Adams County, as well as all the other counties have navigators that can assist employers in getting those registered and also paying for those apprenticeships, whether that be for the training or whether that be for the on-the-job training. And then we can always look at paid internships for short-term. Rebecca, you did a great job explaining both between the two. I just wanted to throw that out there, that like Fortified Academy is a newly registered apprenticeship with the state that does CDLA, and they're working with the workforce centers to pay for some of the CDL training, and they're relatively new within the last, I think, 6 months. I met with them a few months ago. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there, that the workforce centers can help with employers, whether that be pre-apprenticeship, apprenticeships, or internships, or even help navigate through CDLE to be able to get that moved forward on your end. But that's what we're seeing a lot of, is paid into our push is work-based learning. So if we can work with employers to be able to find opportunities to get our people in within paid internships or apprenticeships, then that's a huge help for us. And it's a huge win for employers because they get assistance and we can offset the cost of those.
That's fabulous. Yeah, I think definitely some opportunities for us to partner and start looking at yet another pathway for our students into these jobs.
Yeah,
so
and
I know we're, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think a lot of people think it's difficult to get registered apprenticeships put in place. And yeah, there are some paperwork, but there are people out here that can help. And I don't think a lot of employers realize that we're here to be put in that specific spot so that we can help you navigate those.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I know we're getting close to wrapping up, so I just have a couple more slides that we'll just take a look at. I think this is the other area, to Rebecca's point, we're hearing a lot about work-based learning, and then we're also hearing about short-term non-credit certificates. This is sometimes in the form of custom training. So if a agency needs, has several people who need to be trained, partnering with someone like Front Range Community College or a variety of training areas where, that's something that we're seeing more of. By creating these short-term certificates, we're getting people to employment faster. Another kind of related topic is something that our colleges across the state do, and that's called prior learning assessment. And what we do there is we look at the work that people have done, or we look at the training that may have happened. We do quite a bit of this in Sue's program, and say, rather than you having to take this class, we provide the credit versus prior learning. You get credit for the work that you've done, for the experience that you have in the field. And it's a great way, again, to shorten that time from learning to earning. Oftentimes these certificates are stackable, so someone may earn a certificate, and then when they're maybe ready to move up into management, they can move into an associate's degree or potentially a bachelor's degree. And then, of course, there's associated industry credentials to go with that. So I'll go ahead. I'm going to cover the next slide, and then we'll open it up to final questions. Distance learning, of course, is another tool that we can use. I think this works for people who are employed, who want to take a few classes or get more information. It's something that they can do in the evenings, or if they are working a later shift, they can do it at a time that fits their needs rather than having to go to a classroom. And lots of different ways that distance learning can work. One, it's great for rural areas. There are opportunities for people to do in-person for hands-on tasks, so we can mix and match. We do that in several areas, and then they get their theory online, and it really is an efficient use for training opportunities, where we have what we call a hybrid model, where some of the work is in the classroom or via Zoom, so that like what we're doing today. And then there's what we call asynchronous, where students can log on at a time that's convenient to them to go through the work. And then my last slide is thinking about some of the things, and this is where I really kind of wanted to celebrate what CDOT is already doing with housing, whether it's that stipend, whether it's actually building living spaces that are reasonable. We know that a lot of these agencies support education and training, so that employees do get that benefit. And then, of course, looking at work-life balance. I think this is something that kind of the generation that is most of our employees, they're really looking for that work-life balance, right? Making sure that they're not working 70-hour weeks, but that they have that opportunity to have time at home, and creating that again, that work-life balance. So I'll wrap up there. For any additional questions, comments, I know we only have about a minute. We're scheduled to be done at 9. And I think I'll stop sharing so that we can all see each other a little bit more.
I just want to mention that Heath had put up the national LTAP information, and they have a list of job availabilities as well.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. It's
Thanks,
9
Rebecca.
o'clock, and I think we're ready
Rebecca.
for our next presentation. Sue, I'll turn it over to you.
And I'll go ahead and introduce myself. Good morning, everybody. My name is Corinne Watts. I'm the APWA Career and Workforce Development Manager. I work for the American Public Works Association, focusing on all things workforce development and workforce and public works specifically, which includes a focus on transportation and transportation career pathways. Our Workforce Development Committee, which Susan is on, and I appreciate all the work that Susan does on that committee, they've been working on a strategy to recruit and retain employees in public works, and of course includes transportation as well. And really a part of that strategy, a huge part, is focusing on recruitment and retention into public works. And so you can't really talk about retention without having a focus on career pathing and career progression, because it goes hand in hand. So it's important to have, some frameworks around that career pathing and progression if you really truly want to look at how to recruit and retain employees. And hopefully presenting with me today, I don't see him on yet, but I'll go ahead and get started, and then he can jump on, as Jonathan Gano. He is the Director of Public Works with the City of Des Moines, Iowa. So he'll be talking about developing leadership and creating a leadership framework that really allows for and creates those opportunities for career pathing and career progression. So he'll kind of talk about some framework to develop leaders that embrace that model of career pathing and being able to move up employees on their road to success. Susan, is John on? I don't want to switch screens because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my PowerPoint. But if he hops on, just kind of shoot me a message and let me know. All right. So what is career pathing? It's similar to a career map, but it's defined as a series of jobs an individual intends to hold during their time at the company or organization they work for, or it can be over their career as a whole. It's more than just a list of jobs. I would think about it as kind of their roadmap. And that roadmap has a variety of different paths that they take to get to their end goal. It's also important to remember that employees really want to build skills. They want to build skills, they want to seize opportunities, and they want to explore new roles. And if they can't get those opportunities to grow and experience new things and build those skills, they're going to make an exit. So if there's one thing that you remember from today's presentation, it's creating that pathway for employees to grow is going to be important to retaining them. Career paths encompass a various potential advancement strategies. They can be linear strategies, but they can also be atypical career lattices too. So people often think about career pathing and career progression as an upward ladder. It doesn't necessarily have to look like that. It could be more like a career lattice where you're giving people opportunity to maybe not move up, but gain some skills and kind of grow within the organization. So that's important to remember as well. All right, so let's talk about career progression. Some examples of career progression can be like getting promoted into a higher role within the organization. It could also be taking on new opportunities within their current role. It could be switching to better jobs. It could also be switching to different companies. And that's, I think, what we all don't want to see. We all kind of want to see the employee at least staying within the organization or within a certain sector. But we don't want them to be kind of switching companies, because then that creates kind of a drain on both the pocketbook of the organization and just the overall knowledge. Career progression is synonymous with career development. So you often hear people refer to that as career development. All right, so the importance of career pathing for local public agencies. It's equally important to both the individual and the agency. So that's something to keep in mind. It's important to advance their career. So a career path can help people identify opportunities for growth and advancement. It can also help people make those strategic decisions about how to develop their skills and network. It helps individuals feel motivated. So a career path can provide a sense of direction to help people stay focused, especially stay focused during challenging times. And challenging times are something that the transportation industry is familiar with. It's always challenging times. It can improve people's job satisfaction. So a career path can help people feel satisfied with their role and work environment. People are more employable. So a career path can help people enhance their employability. A career path can help people stay competitive in their industry as well. And pathing can provide valuable feedback on a person's work style. So it creates an opportunity for the leader and the employee to have those conversations around work and work style, and have opportunities for that feedback and constructive criticism. A career path can help companies identify and nurture talent for new roles. And then lastly, it's really important for companies to develop that pathing for employees, because it also helps with succession planning. And succession planning is very important now that we have kind of that boomer generation getting ready to exit in droves. All right, so career pathing. It's also effective in filling vacancies. So I heard earlier someone say that they had just an overwhelming amount of vacancies. Well, career pathing can help fill those vacancies, because you're kind of reaching from within your organization sometimes, instead of from outside your organization. It's more cost effective and it can boost morale. So it's excellent plus for internal recruiting, which is considered probably one of the most effective ways to fill vacancies and strengthen your team. The cost effective side of things, your existing employees are already familiar with the company and its operations. So internal recruiting cuts down the training time. It cuts down on expenses that significantly, since you don't have to onboard a new hire completely from scratch. That costs a lot of money. to be able, to bring somebody in that's not familiar with the organization at all and do that onboarding from scratch. And also internal recruiting will boost morale. Whether it's horizontal or vertical, it makes employees feel seen and feel valued. And that is the most important thing for retention, is making sure that those employees feel valued and feel seen. All right. So in other words, career pathing, it's helping improve the employee experience. I want to talk a little bit about what I refer to talent hoarding. Oftentimes we've heard folks in the industry say that they don't want to develop these career path frameworks because they're afraid they're going to lose their key team members. We call that kind of talent hoarding in the industry. And that's when managers keep their best employees on their team or limit their opportunities. And that really can harm the employee and harm the company. So some examples of this can be limiting collaboration, so preventing other managers from using the employee's skill set. That can include restricting movement, so limiting the employee's access to opportunities for career advancement. And it can also include giving great reviews or telling the employee how much they're valued, but not giving them the opportunity to use those skills. So that's talent hoarding, and it has some negative consequences within the company. We often see companies that embrace that kind of talent hoarding, they have higher turnover rates. They have isolated pockets within the company, and it hinders collaboration and innovation within inside the organization too. And like I said, some reasons why managers and leaders often might hoard talent is because they're afraid of losing productivity. They just have a desire for that control and recognition, or fear of the internal mobility options. But really, we want to encourage working on interdepartmental projects. So if there's opportunities with your organization to be able to grow someone's skill set, working on interdepartmental projects, that's one way that you can make sure that you're developing that career path framework without necessarily losing that employee's talent. You can cross-train with other departments as well. And then get career coaching to learn how to provide feedback and build those relationships and mentor those individuals, because mentorship and just creating the space to provide feedback and build relationships is also effective in career pathing as well. All right. So career progression and career progression framework. Career progression frameworks provide clear pathways for employees to advance in their careers. So if your organization does not have that progression framework, it's pretty important to start thinking about one and outlining the steps and skills needed for promotions within the organization, and fostering that sense of transparency and motivation. It's also important for leadership and management to ask some important questions when they're thinking about developing career paths for their team. Ask questions like, where do you see your career heading in the next year? Where do you see your career heading in the next 5 years? And ask these questions often so you know that of your employees. How can you make an even bigger difference here? That's a good question to ask. You kind of get the sense of your employees' desire to grow within the organization, and get a sense of what they feel like they can do that will help. And then, are any of your skills or strengths being underutilized? That's an important question to ask, for leaders to ask too. I see, Chris, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Corinne, I just had a question about the succession planning and career progression, because I think it's so common to assume that progression leads to promotion. But there's, in public works and a lot of our, strong contributors that just do a fantastic job in their roles, and they actually have no intention on upward mobility. They just want to do a really good job, and they truly believe that they're adding value in their current jobs. And so what does career pathing in transportation look like for those folks? And which is, those are the backbone to our workforce, where they don't necessarily want to be a manager. They just want to do a great job.
Yeah, I think there's still opportunities for an individual like that to learn more and to maybe even teach. So you might not want to be a supervisor or a manager, but that doesn't mean you can't lead within your organization. And there's opportunities for individuals like that to help within a career path framework, because they can mentor folks that might be coming into that role. And they can still be quality leaders, even if they don't want that upward mobility that kind of comes with leading people or supervising people. And they would still make great members on that kind of interdepartmental team. So there's other opportunities outside of maybe their job description that's still within the organization that you can utilize their skill strengths.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So let's kind of move on and kind of talk a little bit about steps to creating a career progression framework. It's important for the organization to do an assessment of the organizational needs and goals, for one thing, and then define all the job roles within the organization. This is a good opportunity, I think, for me to plug the APWA Shaping the World of Public Works. I gave this to Heather to send out to the group that's on here, but if you can kind of develop, something that shows all the roles within the organization, all the roles within the sector, it's helpful, because people can then see what they might want to go to. And even if it's not, within their department, it's still helpful to see the roles within the organization, because ultimately, even if you don't have the employees staying within the department, you still want them to stay within the organization, or you still want them to stay within the sector, because you're all winning then. Determining the skills for the job. So what technical skills are there that's needed? What soft skills are needed? And then develop performance metrics and criteria for those jobs. Design or find training programs that help employees get those skills. So if they're lacking the technical and soft skills that are needed for those, find the training programs and allow them time to gain those skills so they can get there. And create a review process and provide feedback on that. Foster a culture of continuous learning, monitor and adjust as needed, and then celebrate your wins. And we all know that it's important to have great leaders creating this framework. Your managers and leaders within the organization need to embrace the framework. So at this time, I think I'm going to switch it over to Jonathan to kind of talk about his ways to develop leaders within the organization and give some good examples on how to do that. Jonathan, I'm going to progress the slides for you if you're okay with that. You're on mute.
How about now?
Good. I did a brief introduction.
Sorry, this is my first time using Zoom.
But you can go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Sure. I'm Jonathan Gano, Public Works Director for the City of Des Moines, and I'm here to tell the story of how we accidentally did all the things that Corinne said that you should be doing to create career progression pathways. So in my department, we have two ways that we've chosen to develop leaders. If you go to the next slide, our first one is what we call a leadership development group. This really started out of our strategic planning process that we'd started in 2017, finished in 2018. And at the time, we were looking at the impending departure, the silver tsunami, the impending departure of 75% of our frontline supervisors over the next, we then forecasted 5 years. And that added up to 280 years of experience walking out the door. And if your agency is anything like mine, that a lot of what frontline supervisors do is not written down, and it's learned by OJT. And we wanted to shortcut the process of their replacements being able to step into their positions. So we started a process of knowledge transfer from those supervisors in 2019, sat them all down, got kind of pulled out of their collective memories the details of what's important for someone in their role to be able to do. And we're working on creating coursework to prepare people to be ready to take and compete for those jobs and step into them upon their promotion on day one. Then COVID happened, and all those people left in a 1 or 2 year time span when we were expecting them to last 4 or 5. So I was left with a whole different challenge that I was trying to avoid, which was brand new frontline supervisors that didn't get the benefit of that knowledge transfer. We'd gotten started on pulling it out, but we never got to the part where we put it into the audience through any kind of training or development. So I was left with a whole host of supervisors that had no experience, and we needed to increase their OJT much faster. So I drew a bubble around the frontline supervisors that had been in their positions for less than 5 years, and we built what we called the leadership development group. We put them into a cohort and are progressing them through a discussion group and kind of group study piece 1 month at a time. If I can trouble you to go to the next slide. Is it working?
Hold on just 1 second. There we go.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, this one's animated, so you might as well just click all the way through and
Okay.
them all up. So our discussions in this leadership development group looks both at institutional needs, kind of taking that data dump that we got out of the collective institutional memory. And this is our chance to feed them into while they're already doing it. So it's kind of a catch up to shorten their learning curve on OJT, where we walk through what city policies, what SOPs, and who you need to know to get different things done across the city. In a reasonably large work group, there's a lot of things that frontline supervisors will only do every once in a while. I've been in my role for 10 years. There are still new things that come up that I have to go consult the rule books for that I have not bumped into. So OJT can take a very long time for a supervisor to learn everything by osmosis. And this kind of introduces the idea to them and shows them where to find the resource for what it is that they need. We also spend a lot of time on theoretical leadership development. So there's the next piece, looking at books, articles, and we bring in industry professionals. So just taking the opportunity to build their leadership skills by talking about how they lead, getting into some psychology 101 with how people respond to being led in different ways, and how you might have to tailor your responses to different audiences to get maximum effective out of this. And we have a practical application of it too. We've assigned them, the assignment was find us a problem with some process or thing in the department that's not going the way that it should be, and you guys come up with a solution and present an answer back for it. So we're in our 3rd year of this cohort approach. And as we have that last 25% of frontline supervisors step into retirement, and we promote new ones, we folded them into the cohort and just given them the books that we're reading and are catching them back up on the subject matter that we've already covered, but they instantly have a peer group from across the department. We're 6 divisions that are for 5 of those divisions are co-located in one building and 1 is at a remote site. But it instantly gives them a group that they can connect to and share their conversations with, share their problems with. It's and we bill it as a safe space in the context of the actual monthly discussion, which is chaperoned by myself as the director, the department's deputy director, and one of our senior administrators who has taken a tour through APWA's Emerging Leaders Academy as an instructor there, and we bring in some other mentors to with other subject matter expertise to do these lead these conversations with this batch of relatively fresh supervisors. But we get into the weeds with specific problems that they've encountered, whether it's getting into how to deal with HR or personnel requisitions and how do those work and why does it take so long and what are the different gates and why are those gates there and what are the quality control checks that those gates are supposed to do, so they understand the process rather than just being a victim of bureaucracy. They understand what those checkpoints are and why they exist, and it lets us get into those you're not just going to walk around walk around the office and just have a spontaneous discussion with a frontline supervisor about. In Iowa, we have Civil Service Commission, a board of civilians that is also the appeal authority for any deleterious personnel action. So, and until you get to a personnel situation that's gone badly enough that you get into a Civil Service Commission situation, frontline supervisor will never experience that in their first 5 or 10 years until something goes sideways. This creates the opportunity to have those discussions and get into the weeds so they can see why things are the way they are, in a way that with all of these different very important parts of making a work group work, all of our support elements, all of our support departments, and get into the weeds and then in the nuts and bolts in a non-threatening situation. There's no sword hanging over their head that if they do something wrong right now, it's going to cause irreparable career harm. These are friendly discussions where we're able to talk about hypothetically about how things work. We will obliquely refer to previous situations. Half of them will know what we're talking about, where we've had somebody go through a situation and walk them through the different steps where a supervisor could have influenced that situation differently, and try to come to a better common understanding for how things work, who to call when they don't work, and why the things are the way they are. Next slide.
It doesn't want us to go when I'm on mute. I think that might be the issue. There we go.
And we've done, I said we'll get into, there's one more click there. I think there's 3. Yep. There's, or 4. Sorry, these are animated. We will take the opportunity with this group discussion to once a month kind of work over the course of we follow the academic year. And over the course of an academic year, we're on our 3rd book now, work our way through on a chapter by chapter basis, assign them to do the reading for a chapter, come back in a month, and one of them will be charged with developing discussion questions and facilitating the discussion. Of course, the group mentors are there, but we've selected these 3 books. The one in the middle there is highly recommended as a foundational piece for anybody that's new to a leadership position. It's a skills and abilities based thing. There's 30,000 books on Amazon about leadership. So you can really pick any one that you want. It's a matter of personal preference. I do strongly recommend the Leadership Challenge in any iteration of any leadership conversation you have in the workplace, because it's something that people can do. They can change their behavior, and that changed behavior will produce what we would call good leadership, positive change, motivating people for positive change in the work group. It's very cookies on the bottom shelf kind of thing, even though it's research-based. The other two are, between multipliers and how to work for an idiot. It's those both came from the Emerging Leaders Academy alumni instructor that proposed these. And when he brought How to Work for an Idiot into my office to pitch me on using this for discussion, I just tongue in cheek, I just cocked my head and said, "What are you trying to tell me, Steve?" He said, "No, not about you." But the theoretical application lets us build their chops for better understanding their role in a work group as the leader, and that it helps them take their job more seriously, because no one has a bigger impact on a worker's daily experience and implementing culture than does the frontline supervisor. So building their understanding of their role as a leader is very important to me to building a better future for us. And then I mentioned the practical application. We've invited them to, you can go ahead and click on through all those. We've invited them to find a problem of process that they don't like. And they came up with 5 or 6 candidates, and they narrowed in on one. Our accident reporting and vehicle, personal injury and accident injury reporting system, and as it feeds into our safety committee's process. They really didn't like how that worked. And we charged them with figuring out some solutions, and then I took their solutions. They pitched it to me in a formal presentation, and I said yes, and we went on and made those changes. And I've already chalked up small wins for every one of these brand new supervisors, that they saw a problem, put their heads together, came to the department director with, "Here's a solution," and I authorized it, we implemented it, and it made the situation better, both for the people in the department, the administration, and the supervisors that are charged with implementing our policies and procedures. So it's a win for everybody. Next slide. Important is that you pick mentors that are interested, must be willing to participate. You can't have somebody there that's against their will. Leadership development is usually something that attracts a lot of attention from those that are even remotely gifted in that area. You do have to have somebody that has the respect of the workforce. Otherwise, it won't resonate to have somebody that's not respected. And we paired out those that didn't have leadership development experience. So I did want to limit the mentor group to just a few individuals that were hand selected. Next. Our second group is stepping back in our strategic plan to try to backfill the solution that I had in mind originally, which was prepare people to contend for positions of future leadership, and so that a broader audience has a better understanding of what's going on in the work group and how we get there. And this is something that I heard one of the questions earlier. How do you separate this from promotion? And we tell them right on the front end that this is, one, neither required for promotion, nor is it a guarantee of promotion. We had a congenial discussion with our union leadership to make sure that they understood that this is just a training class for those who are interested. And for those that are interested, it has had a decent payoff in the little more than a year that we've run it. Several members that people that raised their hand to go through it have been better positioned to contend for promotion and have earned that promotion through our typical competitive application and job interview process. So what this does is takes members of the field staff, anybody that's not currently in a supervisory or management role, and we just, again, back to putting the cookies in the bottom shelf, just building their understanding of the department as a whole. It's amazing how you can get into, I imagine many work groups are the same, where I was joking with somebody yesterday that we're very siloed in my workplace, and it can be, we used to be in 7 different buildings, and only 2 years ago did the 5 divisions of public works that are currently co-housed together. Only for the last 2 years have we even been under the same roof. So you could work an entire career in my department and never see people from other work groups. This brings all 6 divisions together in a way that that hasn't traditionally been part of it. And we start from the beginning, walk them through why things are the way they are, and give them a broader perspective on both the workplace, the department, the city as a whole, and leadership in general, and have had some decent success with this. Next slide. We put 16 people in a room. It is modeled after the Emerging Leaders Academy. Next slide. Where we will, again, this is probably inspired more so by the shape of it is inspired by the primary staff member experience of helping run APWA's Emerging Leaders Academy. Kind of took that idea and ported it into it. We've put a lot of local flavor onto it, but we are very clear with them that it's not a guarantee of promotion, nor is it a requirement that that you have to have gone through this in order to be promoted. I do think it better prepares one for that interview, and we invariably have a vacancy where someone from the field staff is filling in as an acting supervisor for a period of weeks, and this lets them better understand their role while they're in that temporary role, and it will better prepare them for the interview that will earn them the opportunity to be promoted. Next slide. So this was a very much more condensed program. It's a one-off for the people that participate in it. You can see the schedule there. We had our comms team fab up basically a little advertisement for it that we posted all around the room, all around the break room and all the buildings entrances. And we've done it twice. The first one was just over a year ago. We've fit the opened up applications for 16 in a work group with 425 total. I'm drawing a blank on how many. I mean, maybe 75 are not eligible out of the remainder. We had 55 applications for the first 16 slots. And that told us there was quite a bit of pent up demand. Even after we did the 16, we hurried up and did one in the spring of this year, did another 16. Then we'll kind of step back from this was 2 within 1 year of each other to we'll space it out to next spring and maybe 2 springs after that, so that we're not oversaturating our work group. I mean, there's only so many people that will have not gone through it, so we don't want to keep running this. Not like the cohort with the leadership development group, where they're staying in their role as frontline supervisors, and we want to keep continually training them. This is just a focused course for members of the field staff to learn more about leadership, the work group, and their role in it. So you can see the breakdown there: half-day sessions, full days, some full days, dives, half-day sessions, and then we bring them back for a full day. The whole thing is done in a month and a half. Next slide. And I think there's some animated things there. So one of the things we do is bring part of that foundational element is getting them to better understand themselves. So and again, there's personality profiles aplenty. You pick one that you like. By virtue of our experience with the Emerging Leaders Academy, we picked the Insight Inventory, which is the tool that they use there, and we ported it here. Even brought Deanne Cross from APWA to help us facilitate the implementation of it on our first one. I think she left us hanging for the second one, but by then we'd already had the benefit of watching her do it in our environment. And it just gets the conversation going in a room with 16 people. We like 16 because it's a big enough group that that you don't have to participate in every conversation, but it's not so big that you can get away with not participating at all. So it's kind of a good sweet spot for a typical conference room, a large conference room to fit 16 people in. And you can break them up into small groups, 4 and 4. So there's small discussions for a more intimate setting. But this personality profile, pick your own, whichever you want, lets them understand themselves better and how they relate to other people. Not every person in the field staff of a public works department has done a personality profile before. Many of us have encountered one somewhere along the way. I think I've personally done 4 or 5 different ones, whether the owl, the bird one, the disc profile, the color one. Everyone with a PhD in psychology has probably cooked up their own version to sell somewhere along the way. They're all valuable in their own different ways. Pick one that works. If you want to try to implement this, try to pick one that works for your preferences. Next. And next. And then, so we do run them through some basic leadership stuff. You'll see multipliers repeat from the leadership development group. It's an excellent book. You learn a lot about bad habits that good people have, and the ability to change those, and how what might otherwise be good behavior in some settings might be have a diminishing effect in other ones. We walk them through the golden circle from Simon Sinek with the what's your why? Why are you here and why are you doing this? We invite them to think about that. And then we also walk them through the 7 habits of highly dysfunctional leaders, which was crafted by the Leadership and Management Committee of APWA some years ago. It's a tongue-in-cheek look through the bad habits that we all have from time to time. As soon as you saw the title, you probably thought of somebody in particular that came out of your out of the leadership experience from your past. But this was the more you think about it, we all have bad habits, and then we have a fun conversation about how to either avoid them or deal with a leader that has an occasional bad habit, and go from there. So this is part of that building the theoretical base for people that are interested in a potential future promotion. Next slide. So this gets just a visual of the group there. That's Steve Johnson, our administrator, and ELA instructor alumni. My deputy director is on the side there. I think I'm just over the shoulder of the cameraman, or maybe I'm in the back corner on the left was, I think, my assigned spot. But we just had men and women from all 6 work groups come in and just participate in this class for a month and a half. I think it was other than the 2-day session that kicks it off, it was like every Tuesday. Yeah, there's a schedule and a quick look through what our most recent version was. The first one is a whole day. We do bring in other speakers from across the city. You can see our chief equity officer had a spot there to make sure that we were addressing equity and inclusion, a priority for our city. We did have, it says that we did have Deanne doing the thing, just this most recent one, but it gives a chance for, you see the working lunch with the administrators. This is each of our 6 division leaders coming in, and over the course of lunch, we're just talking about, here's what my work group does, and introducing ourselves to the work group to the rest of the department. So next slide. You'll see more of the schedule, where we're talking about some cookies on the bottom shelf kind of things, but also broadening their perspective of their understanding of their role in our department. Next slide. Yeah, so we go through you can just click through the rest of the schedule there. I'll be happy to share this with anybody in the audience when we're done. We are a share and share alike kind of work group. So all of our material is available. And it's the same deal with the leadership development group. We throw a practical element into the very end of it, where the 16 members of the field staff are charged with, amongst yourselves, we tell them, figure out what's a problem. What do you not like about how things are? And then work their way through a course of action, and we kind of coach them through how to score courses of action based on different evaluation criteria real quick. And they land on one, they have to brief it to me as the department director with what the recommendation is. And for both of the outcomes, for both iterations of this course, we have taken and immediately implemented the solution that they came out of it. So they get to see that success for their input into changing something that they collectively didn't like about the department, this or that or the other thing. I also take notes on the other things that didn't make their final cut. And we also start chipping away at those because they've raised it as an issue, as a kind of my way of flushing the burrs out from under the saddle. Makes us look like we're a lot smarter than we actually are. But these are things that some of our most motivated people have said, hey, here's a problem that I think we should work on. It just didn't get enough votes to be the one. And we just give them, 1 day to from start to finish, to ideate, course of action evaluate, and then they also have to do some PowerPoint and some presenting. So a few little professional development opportunities, skill building there for them. And I take everything else and back to the celebrating small wins. We make a big deal out of everything because they provide us with an opportunity to make someone's day better by giving, even if it's just what you might call a dumb certificate. Most of our field staff don't do things that have certificate opportunities associated with them. So we make sure that every graduate gets a certificate at our little graduation ceremony at the end. And I don't know if they frame it or what they do with it at the end, but we will take that picture and use it in our promotional materials, our internal department communication, so everyone gets to see that yes, we do stuff and we make note of it, and most of it's some of it's pretty cool, and you should think about signing up next time. Next slide. I think that might be the last one.
Yep, that's it. I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions?
Great. I have pre-answered all of your questions. Outstanding.
Jonathan,
well, as I said, we are share and share alike in my work group. Everything that we've done, we are happy to share with anybody else. So if you want to just you can find me on the interwebs and send me an email, and we'll hook you up with a copy of everything we do.
Jonathan, this is Chris.
Yeah.
Great content. Thank you for sharing that. And my question is, as you've built out this month-and-a-half training program, what are some things that you've learned based on the feedback that from the participants that you've had to kind of adjust? I thank you for sharing this. This is wonderful information.
I don't remember that we made specific changes to the content from user feedback, from student feedback, except we did change how we did the last day and the problem identification and presentation. And that was more from a carryover from the leadership development practical problem solving experience was taking too long and was too fuzzy. And they bit off way more than this group of 16 would be able to pick up in the leadership course. So we tailored their practical problem solving experience down to pick a small problem. We're not like going to institutional structure of the organization problem. Find a small problem and something that can be done quickly and preferably cheaply. So that was user feedback from the other course feeding into the one. Of course, we made multiple adjustments to the curriculum. We learned never schedule this person after lunch because they'll be late, and just the usual things you might learn from doing something once. We made changes to the second time. After the second one, we made notes for when we go to build it in probably 9 months time, maybe a year. Maybe this time next year is when we'll do the next one. We haven't put it on the map yet. We'll have more adjustments to the curriculum, but it will look and feel very similar to the 2 previous iterations. They're just modest changes.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jonathan. Corinne, did you have anything else to add?
I think so. Both the PowerPoint and the Shaping a World of Public Works brochure, I have given to Heather, so she can send it out to the group. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me or Jonathan. Be happy to answer them.
Right. Thank you. We also have a recording that will be available for everyone at the end, so you can go back and look at it all again.
So the adoption of autonomous vehicles is expected to be an industry disruptor. It's going to lead to new opportunities, but also new challenges as well, especially in regards to our training. So currently there's a skills gap. According to the Federal Transit Administration, there was a significant skills gap with the public transportation industry, particularly in areas like maintenance and operations. So what we're seeing is a shortage of qualified workers. The technology has not been keeping pace with the changes. So the training has not been keeping pace with the changes in technology. So there's also a need to balance the innovation, all these rapid changes in the industry, all the technological changes with safety. I'm sure you all have seen on the news and in the media some of the concerns out there regarding vehicles blowing up, especially EVs and or quote unquote self-driving. That's really a misnomer, but these self-driving vehicles that are doing some things in the operational field that are not what their creators intended. So we're seeing these types of problems, and how can we balance those two factors out? And also, probably one of the biggest issues is not so much the money or the time, but agencies want to see that there's a return on their investment. If they allow their employees to spend hours receiving this new training to meet the needs to close the skills gap, they want to know that they're going to see a return on that investment, that they're going to get their money's worth at the end of all of it. So these are some of the issues that are currently going on right now. And again, we're looking for ways on how to fix it. And it's a collective problem. It's not going to be a one way, one path forward. So some of the emerging technologies or emerging issues are sustainability, increase in automation, and one of the bigger ones is cybersecurity, and that's something that will allow for a lot of new jobs. According to the World Economic Forum, there's going to be an increase in jobs related to automation, which will lead to the creation of about 58 million new jobs by 2022. So 58 million jobs in the next few years, including many in the transportation sector. The International Transport Forum forecasts significant growth in the EV market, which will create new jobs and again, new opportunities in areas like charging infrastructure and maintenance. But again, along with all of that will be issues related to security, not just physical security, but also cybersecurity, which I'll get into in just a second. The United States DOT has set goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector. That's a huge priority for the current administration. I'm sorry, we're on the slide 6, sustainability. Yes, I'm sorry, I should be telling you, I'm going along and not letting you know. My apologies for that. So regarding sustainability, so the training programs are currently being developed to equip workers with the skills that they need to support sustainable transportation practices. Again, in the current administration, there's a greater emphasis on using renewable energy and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And so how do we achieve those government priorities and regulatory priorities with the current workers that we have and their current skill set? So there's going to be some training needs around that issue as well. Next slide, please. In regards to automation, so these new autonomous vehicles, you'll see the phrase CAV, connected and autonomous vehicles, and other automated technologies are going to play a significant role in the future of transportation. So new skills and training around these issues will also be needed to meet these automation goals. Right now, there's an initiative called V2X, and I'm still in the process of learning about it, but it's basically vehicles will be connected to basically every part of the transportation infrastructure, from things like signals, traffic lights, vehicles will be connected to one another in some cases. So there's going to be a lot of and the unfortunately, we're still working, we being United States transportation industry, we're still working out ways of making that possible. And some of it is going to be driven by the private sector. Some of it's going to be driven by the United States Department of Transportation, infrastructure for local communities and as at the state level, state and local levels. Even the FCC is involved, like finding ways to transmit messages from one vehicle to the larger infrastructure system, so that, for example, traffic lights will be aligned with the vehicles that are coming through those intersections, that type of thing. So it's a huge effort. Again, I'm just learning the tip of the iceberg regarding it, but it's going to necessitate training. And so right now, the Federal Highway Administration is administering some of those trainings. And so we'll start seeing those efforts ramp up, and NHI will be part of it in some level. So in regards to cybersecurity, NHI recently developed a transportation cybersecurity system. Cybersecurity relates to the idea that because these vehicles are all connected, there may be some nefarious actors out there who want to take down the transportation infrastructure. And so just like everything else, they're going to be, the infrastructure will be susceptible to cyber attacks. We're already seeing cyber attacks on and information being stolen in different ways. But can you imagine if all the vehicles are connected and God forbid someone, initiated an attack that shut down traffic signals during rush hour, for example. And so these types of concerns are very real. They're out there. And we're going to need training to lock down and secure the transportation infrastructure system so that these persons will not be able to initiate these types of attacks. So training will be needed to protect the infrastructure from, again, people with bad intentions, and especially as the system becomes more and more connected, which we're going to see those types of initiatives in the next 5 to 10 years before we have a more mature connected system. Any questions so far? I know I'm just zipping through. Any questions or thoughts so far? Yeah.
No.
Hey, next.
Fascinating topic.
You say what?
I said not at the moment, no questions, but fascinating topic.
Oh, thank you for that. So yeah, next slide, please. So how do we train people for all these things that are coming? We know that we're again kind of at the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, in initiating all of these things, the automation, the connected vehicles, the need for green transportation modalities. So knowing that these things we're basically on the cusp of these issues, how do we go about training to ensure that the next generation of transportation professionals are ready to meet these challenges? Because we can't implement all of these new innovations without sufficient training for current professionals, but also up and coming professionals as well, people who are interested in the field and want to become more involved. So some best practices include things like certification programs, industry partnerships, and mentorship programs. Next slide, please. Organizations like the American Public Transportation Association currently offer certification programs for people in the area in fields such as transportation maintenance, operations, and safety. So we're going, again, even Front Range College has a program in highway maintenance, for example. So at both at the community college level and at the university level, we're seeing more and more training programs, be they certificates or full-on degrees. So this may be one way to bridge the gap, having shorter workforce level education programs as opposed to longer programs for like transportation engineers, for example. So for some roles, a certificate may be sufficient. We may be able to close those skills gaps with just a certification program as opposed to a full-on university program. Or we may see people who are mid-career coming back and getting these certifications to help augment their current standard of training. We also see a lot of industry partnerships. Again, transportation agencies are partnering with educational institutions to provide tailored training programs that meet the specific needs of the industry and the changing needs of the industry. And this summit is one example of such a partnership between Front Range Community College and in Colorado LTAP, the local technical assistance program. So we're seeing more of these types of public, private entities working together. Well, in this case, both of them are public, but we're seeing more and more of these types of relationships to help build capacity and improve training outcomes for transportation professionals. Next slide, please. I can speak at Federal Highways Administration. We're seeing more internship and mentoring programs, which will allow the next generation of transportation workers to be onboarded and to provide some knowledge sharing. What we're seeing at our agency, Federal Highways, older professionals are transitioning out of the workforce through retirement and other ways. Some of them are going into the private sector, whereas newer people are coming into the field. And so how do we prevent quote unquote brain drain? How do we keep that knowledge sharing and professional development going for the new transportation professionals? One way we're seeing that happen is through mentorship and, again, also internship programs. And for private agencies or even some state agencies, it could be a low-cost way to apprentice these new employees into the field, to allow them to do some shadowing and receive some coaching from more established professionals in the field, so that they're being brought along and getting the skills that they need to again meet these challenges, to know where we are, and also, to help with where we're going as an industry. Next slide, please. So in talking with some of my colleagues who are doing this type of work, who are really involved with the training piece, a lot of them are at the Federal Highway Administration's Resource Center. I'll talk about that in just a moment. And, I was kind of picking their brain a few weeks ago. I was with them in the Western Federal Lands, which is up in Vancouver, Washington. And I was asking them, what are some of the challenges to training that you all are seeing, because they interact a lot with state DOTs and some of the local agencies that are requesting training. I said, what are some of the challenges? I was thinking for myself that the challenge would be the money, that, agencies don't want to spend the money to get their people trained. And one thing that they shared was it's not really so much the money, it's the time, taking people out of quote unquote service in order to receive training. So how do we make sure that the training that is being offered is worthwhile, is value added, is making a difference, is moving the needle, all of those things? How do we show ROI? And to me, that's probably one of the biggest pain points for agencies from what I'm hearing. So Federal Highway Administration offers a lot of training. And so I'm going to talk about 3 different arms that provide training within our agency, as well as some other places where transportation professionals can get some of the skills that they need to meet these challenges that we're seeing coming down the pike. Next slide, please. So I'm a training program manager at the National Highway Institute. We offer training in a wide range of program areas, and so 18 different program areas to be exact. And so I'm oversee training in design and operations, civil rights, freight. So right now we're developing a course on vehicle size and weight and its impact on the transportation infrastructure. So, a lot of different areas, training, planning and management. And our courses are both instructor-led and web-based. And we also have virtual instructor-led courses. So basically taught in a mediated format, where students are in one location and the instructors in another, which again provides some cost benefits for people who may have difficulty having their entire team travel to receive training. So there's some benefits in that as well, rather than just the traditional instructor-led training that we all probably grew up with. Our Federal Highways NHI's web-based training is free. I mean, it's available at no cost to our stakeholders. So, people can take those courses. Again, we have classes in bridge inspection, geotechnology, planning and operations. Again, 18 different program areas. Please check it out. I'm sure that there's some training out there that may appeal to some of you all in your team. So environmental impact assessments, which is something that's done. It's also within our civil rights to ensure that within our civil rights program, to ensure that people are having equity and inclusion and making sure that traffic design is not affecting communities in a disparate fashion. So we have a lot of different training, a lot of different areas that will help to meet this goal. And right now we're looking at providing training in CAV, connected and autonomous vehicles. So that's one of the areas under my purview. And so we're having discussions on how can we train up mid-career and new career employees within the transportation field on these types of new technologies, because it is rapidly changing. And, as we're developing courses, the technology is something else new has come out. So it's a challenge, but it's information that our stakeholders really do need in order to do their jobs and to do it at a high level for the safety and security of all people who travel across United States transportation infrastructure. Next slide, please. As I state, one of my biggest colleagues, group of colleagues that I work with a lot is the Resource Center. So again, for each of our program areas, there is a Resource Center. I work with the operations folks quite a bit. They're over design and traffic operations, great group of people. And so they really are one of the most public facing parts of Federal Highway Administration, in the sense that they're the home to the national staff of subject matter experts across 8 predominant teams. So some of the teams are kind of nestled into one another, and they cover various specialty areas, and they're the primary source of training. They provide technical assistance. They also help with technology deployment to support Federal Highway Administration's federal partners, state DOTs, and some of the local transportation agencies. They also coordinate with other stakeholders. They work with contractors as well to help support the training, predominantly training needs. And they help with collaboration among stakeholders through peer exchanges. They perform program reviews, but again, their biggest source of interaction is via their training. And so, again, great resource, it's right there in their name, Resource Center. And they actually, do a lot of training. And so whereas NHI provides more course-based training, the Resource Center provides like just-in-time, and a lot of what they do is that cutting edge, this is a new technology. People need to know about it right now. So some of the new innovations, they're going to have that information a little bit out to the public in a little bit faster way than sometimes our course-based training can provide. But we do collaborate a lot together to ensure that what they're presenting, we can replicate in a classroom setting for other stakeholders who need that longer, more formatted presentation of content. Again, any questions on that before we move to the next slide? About kind of the difference between the Resource Center and us and kind of what we do? Next slide, please. So one of the groups that I'm also working with is ITS, the Intelligent Transportation Systems. So when we talk about ITS, we're looking at all the new technologies, including autonomous vehicles, as we've been sharing and talking about this morning for you all, this afternoon for me. So they're transforming the ways that transportation systems are operated and maintained. I mean, again, these new technologies have been revolutionary, have really changed the transportation system. And so the ITS has a program called Professional Capability Building. And they're basically right now doing a road show presenting on a lot of different cutting edge technologies and how those technologies, again, connected, intelligent, like the smart car, basically just like your smartphone. We have the smart car now. And how these technologies are shaping and changing the transportation workforce. So the program assists professionals in the field, educators, and also students in developing their knowledge, skills, and abilities to build their technical proficiency while furthering their career path. So we know that the technology is changing. It's going to change the way we do, our standard operating procedures in the transportation industry. And so getting that information that the people in the field need when they need it as quickly as possible. So not just today's transportation workforce, but also tomorrow. So we're looking ahead to what's coming down in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, there's plans right now out to 2036 about what's changing in the within the connected and autonomous vehicle system within the CAV within that field, and what practitioners need to know to be able to meet those changes. So that's where we are. And the PCB, great resource. Google them, go out there, reach out to them, and they can maybe provide training for your team to understand, what's coming down and how it may affect, what you do on a daily basis in your field. We also have LTAP, which again, the Colorado LTAP is one of the sponsors for this summit. And it's part of the NLTAPA, which is the Local Technical Assistance, National Local Technical Assistance Program Association. Again, 52 agencies within the United States, as well as our territories, Puerto Rico and Guam, and they offer technical assistance training on various transportation topics. And looking at their website, seeing the resources that they provide, it can be another layer of support for your team who may need, again, training in a specific area. A lot of stuff dealing with pavement, road maintenance. So again, not just these, high skill areas, but also some skill areas that are more practical, perhaps, for people who are performing tasks related to infrastructure maintenance, which is critical. We often talk about, things like cybersecurity or some, the quote unquote high level activities, but we need roads that don't have potholes. That's an issue too. So helping these local areas, local communities with the skills and knowledge that they need to maintain roads and bridges, for example, is critical to our infrastructure, critical to keeping people moving. It's not just all engineers. Sometimes it's, practical workers. And lastly, I'd like to talk about AASHTO, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan association. Again, I'm sure you all are familiar with it. It's within the 50 states, DC, and Puerto Rico, that represents all traffic modalities, air, transportation, public transportation, highways, rail, and water. It's the Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. And it provides not just technical training, which is critical and important, but also leadership. Like, we need to make sure that our leaders understand what they need to do, the direction that these technologies are going in, and how to best position their team. And I know that could be a pain point for some of the state DOTs of how to get leadership to listen, getting your leadership the right training that they need to be successful can also help with employees and ensuring that the right people in the right place at the right time. So the primary goal of AASHTO is to foster development, operation, and maintenance for the national transportation infrastructure and system. So again, they have a lot of training. They have, I think, over 550 PDHs available. So for those people, it's not just engineers, it's also, again, some hard skills as well, not just the engineering piece, but also the nuts and bolts of, road maintenance. So, providing a pretty broad spectrum of resources and materials and training that's needed across different levels of expertise. And so just to kind of wrap up, so the industry is in a time of great upheaval. Probably, I I don't think that the United States transportation industry has seen such change in the last 100 years, to be honest with you, since the early 1900s. I mean, we're in a real pivot point of change, and a lot of it is based around automation, innovation, which is reshaping the transportation landscape right now. And so in order to meet these needs, we're going to need training. We know that. But my concern as a training program manager is the right training at the right time to the right people, and ensuring that those things are in place. And as you've seen, I've shown you all some of the resources that are available to help you and your team get the training you need. And I'm committed to that effort. And I know that other people, I know within Federal Highway Administration, but also in talking with some of the other entities like the LTAP programs and folks at AASHTO, we're all committed to the same goal. We're all ultimately on the same team, is ensuring that the right people have the right training at the right time. And so that's a priority for all of us. Last slide. What questions do you all have for me that I can hopefully answer? I know that was a lot of information, and some of it may be a little bit recursive, and some of it may be new for you all. But we want to make sure that people have the opportunity to have these discussions. Sobia, you have your hand up.
I was just thanking and applauding.
Oh, thank you, Sobia. I appreciate you. Yeah. Any thoughts or, any observations? Again, some of you all are probably much closer to these efforts than I am at NHI. So I'd be interested in hearing, your inputs as well, because again, this affects all of us. I think it affects everyone on this call, the direction we're going in and how to best get there. So I welcome any insights that you all may have. Oh goodness, I was so great. I answered all the questions. Yay.
I'm going to stop sharing, Shaunda, so I can see my screen here a little bit. Thank you so much. I do have one question for you. Are you getting, how well are your automated and connected vehicle trainings going? Like, I feel like there's so much resistance to those kinds of things, socially and, all that. Are they well received? And do you think that are people still looking for transportation to like move in that direction, and really how fast? Because I feel like it's such a slow grind and there's so much resistance to automated connected technology for transportation.
So at NHI, we really don't have training for it yet. I am working with people from the ITS, the Intelligent Transportation Systems Office, JPO, the Joint Program Office there. They're actually going out and presenting on these topics now. So I think part of it is a lack of knowledge. Like even within our industry, people just don't know. What you don't know, what you don't know. And so, so we're trying to educate folks about the direction that it's going in. And how it's going to affect them, because a lot of times people are slow to adopt because they don't know their role within the process. So that's one of the things we're working on right now. And also the bigger concern that's slowing down is the infrastructure. We don't really have the infrastructure right now to implement all these grand ideas that are coming down from, much higher above than our pay grades. So, we're trying to ensure that we develop the infrastructure, at the same time educate people on what's going to happen. And again, like I said, I saw a plan yesterday that laid out to 2036 about how to, educate folks, tell them what's expected of them, while also building the capability, building the infrastructure, making sure all of those pieces are in place so that these goals can stay on track. And it's not a slow process. It's a cruise ship, not a speedboat, as someone wiser than I has stated. So that's kind of where we are. But again, at some point, we at NHI are going to have to build courseware around these topics. And we're not there yet. But again, in the next probably 3 to 4 years, we will be.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's important to, I think public education is one of our biggest challenges out there, especially when it comes to new technology in transportation, and they already don't understand what we're doing out there. They think they do, but they really don't. But I think they make assumptions, and I think we are challenged in a big way with educating them about some of these things coming up. So all the work you're doing is fabulous, and we
well, thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Like I said, I work with the Resource Center. They're awesome. They're probably, like I said, providing that tip of the spear, just in time, information that it takes us a little bit longer to catch up to as developing, course longer format instruction. So it takes us a little bit longer to provide that. So Resource Center is a great resource for that type of information that folks at the state DOTs need right now.
Yeah, that's great. Anybody else have anything to add to or comments or concerns or questions for Shaunda? I'm not seeing any. I do want to just make a comment though about the longstanding. I think it's important to really pay attention to almost every single presenter in both tracks that we've had today have made comments or expressed the partnership work that they're doing. And I think it's really, really important to keep that in mind. None of us are going to be able to solve any of these problems by ourselves. It's really critical that we have these partnerships. And I just want to share with you some of the ways that we've partnered with all of these. 5 out of the 6 presenters today are partners for our program. We have crosswalks to credit for several of the NHI classes that are offered right now. Primarily, our biggest one is the National Highway Institute's Leadership Academy, Maintenance Leadership Academy. It's a really highly sought after program, mostly among the state DOTs, because it does have a big cost. Until you guys are giving that away free, we will have to depend. We're giving 4 credits to anybody that presents us that certificate because of the depth of that program and how well it's presented. I just saw them last week or 2 weeks ago out in Aurora doing it for the Colorado DOT, and our students were actually in that class. So the way those partnerships work is Colorado DOT will put the class on, and if we have students in the program who maybe not qualified to actually take it according to the Colorado DOT's criteria for who they put into that training, they'll actually waive that and allow our students to participate because they're going to get those credits for it. And during COVID, they didn't even charge us for the really expensive training. So it was virtual, and it was a little bit more affordable, but that's the way those partnerships are working. We are looking to the industry for the training that we're, we've outlined competencies for, and when they line up, we actually took them from you all. When we put together our competencies for our leadership class, we just copy and pasted. Gay just gave us Gay Dugan, who was your predecessor, just gave us the competencies and said, yeah, we don't really own the competencies. So yeah, you can have those. And so it lined up perfectly to the training, and then it made it really easy to write those crosswalks or those transcription agreements for college credit. And that's basically the way it works. And we have all those other folks who AASHTO. We have so many AASHTO trainings that are out there right now that if the students present those certificates, they get the training as well. They get the college credit as well. So these partnerships, yeah, these are what makes these programs work. And I'll also say this: a few weeks ago or last week, I was on another national transportation workforce webinar, and the question about when do you convene your advisory committee came up. And I think it's important to note that you kind of need them before you have a program, right? They're going to present to you the problem, and they're going to bring you the solutions, right? They're going to bring the competencies that you need. They're going to bring all the things that you need. They're going to pull all this stuff together for you. And that was a surprise, I think, to a lot of those folks that were on, and there were some smart people on that committee, and they seemed a little bit surprised when I said, yeah, we had our advisory committee before we had a program. That's what it starts with, and that's the partnership coming together to solve the problem. So anyway, I don't want to take up everybody's time here.
Let me say this: I think more agencies need an advisory board, and they're not. Just to your point, they're not utilizing their advisory committees in the most effective ways, and that is wonderful to hear you say that. I'm glad you spoke out on that.
Yeah, I think you have to start there. In our case here, Colorado DOT presented us with the problem. They had not developed their employees in a way that they could promote from within for big projects that they had.
Oh,
And we
wow.
talked earlier about the demoralizing effect of that on your agency. And it was happening at Colorado DOT. So they came to the school and said, hey, here's our problem. Can you help us come up with a solution for that? And it ended up being our associate's degree in highway maintenance management. So
that's awesome.
yeah. So, but they pulled the people together, and we started out with that conversation. Hey, we have a problem. What do we do? And bringing to LTAP, bringing APWA, bringing all those together just locally here turned into a national associate's degree that people in 17 different states are participating in.
That's what I was going to ask. That was my next question. So this is, so they can't take it online. So people.
It's all online. Yep.
Oh,
everything's online. And
I'm high-fiving you.
the certificates, the certificates come from all of the different training, all the partners across the country, like all those 51 LTAPs and the 9 TTAPs that are out there. Awesome. We have agreements in New Mexico with the tribal, the Colorado, the New Mexico Contractors Association. So those folks, and they're doing, one of the examples that I love to share what these students are doing with this when they complete this degree. One of their tasks is to do a capstone project, and they come up with the project, they present it to me, and I decide whether it would be acceptable or not. And one student presented me just an application for a grant. She just wanted to see if she could, because it had all of the elements I was looking for in an overview of the whole program. Like, she needed to include all of the learning that she did throughout the whole thing. And she wrote the application, and I said, yeah, I'll accept that as the capstone project. And she got the credits for it, but she took it a step further and she submitted it, and she won the grant. So the Navajo Nation down in New Mexico has another $21 million now to resurface some of their, so complete surprise to everyone, and just a really amazing example of what the students are actually doing with the degree once they get it. So I don't think she's there anymore. She's moved on to a different tribe, but she's still taking her knowledge and coming up with other things. Sobia, did you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to add on partnerships as we are talking about. So with NHI, with our trainings, we partner, as Shaunda said, that we partner with Resource Center. So there is a great example of speed management course, which is a web-based course. So the students take that course, and then they request an instructor-led session with the Resource Center. So they can have a powwow session based on their state needs. But the overall speed management concept theory is explained in web-based training already. So that's a perfect way to partner as well. And most of our NHI web-based trainings are free of cost. So take advantage of that. Tell your students to take our courses. They are awesome.
I will agree 100%.
Those courses, yeah,
the courses are awesome, and I evaluate them as they come up. If people present them for credit, I go ahead and I start looking for them. I don't want to, control the conversation here. I do know that we are expected back in the main room, so if you guys want to click off of this one and go back into the main room, we can continue the discussion in there and sort of compare notes with what everyone else came up with. So I am going to go off. This room will close, go back to the original one at the beginning.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shaunda. Thank you, everyone, for your expert advice. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. See you back in the main room.